What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the HnH Podcast. I am your co-host, Humzah Rana, joined by my older brother, Huzaifah Rana. We're excited to be back. We're excited to, be back in the studio. Huzaifah, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Humzah. Thank you so much. Fired up for today's episode. Today we are going to be doing the HnH 3.0 mock draft for everyone watching. But today we're going to do a little bit differently, okay? Humzah, in a few moments right now, is going to share his screen to, I believe, PFF, mock draft simulator. And what we're going to do is we're going to go one by one. Humzah, we talked a little bit before we started recording, but I don't know all of his picks. He does not know all of my picks. And then we're just going to kind of go almost like it's a live mock draft and kind of talk about our players, each player for each team. But Humzah, before we get into that, what are your thoughts on quick recap of free agency as a whole? How have you been overall? NFL seasons, the off seasons is honestly getting into the heat of it now. With I think obviously the combine finishing up a couple weeks ago, free agency last week or 2 weeks ago, and obviously the NFL draft in just about a month's time. So, what are your thoughts on the overall off season? How excited are you for this time of year where we get more mock drafts and we get to see now after free agency some teams' bigger needs?
Yeah, free agency kind of started off with a bang. Like literally, as soon as the clock started for free agency signings to happen, the verbal agreements, it just didn't stop. Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. Well, why am I blanking already? It was Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. Kobe Bryant to the Bears. Bunch of other signings. I don't know why I'm blanking on the top of my head right now. Just the two.
The Max Crosby fake trade.
Yeah, Max Crosby trade. Rashawn Gary.
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis was another big one.
Tua. There's some big
Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker to the Raiders. Reed Blankenship to the Texans. Jalen Thompson to the Cowboys. It was crazy. It just didn't stop. So, it's always fun having free agency around, and always the hope that Dallas wants to do something. And honestly, I can't really complain too much about what Dallas has done so far. I do like some of the signings that they have made, and with free agency happening, we can kind of adjust our mock draft from there. Because before we would just go on kind of who's best player, like best team fit. Now it's a little bit more best player available and a bit of team fit as well. Because some teams, are leaving spots open for players to acquire in the draft.
100%. And I think the biggest thing as well, as you just mentioned, is free agency just happened a few weeks ago. And now you start to see, okay, this team needs a linebacker. This team needs a receiver. And it'll be interesting to see what our Dallas Cowboys do come April for the NFL draft. As, there was reports that we wanted to get some linebackers. And unfortunately, that market quickly went away for Dallas. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with what Dallas has done. There's some other things that happen. I'm also happy how many players the Eagles have lost. So overall, I think it's been a pretty entertaining NFL free agency. And obviously, we know, similar to last year when Dallas was the biggest need was a wide receiver, they didn't draft one, and they went out there and they traded for one later in George Pickens. So it's going to be an exciting time. Let's get right into it. So why don't you share your screen for our viewers now, and then we'll kind of go one by one, a live mock draft, and kind of explain why we're making these picks. And for people watching, what we'll do is on our Instagram, we'll do a little bit more highlight pack, short clips for you guys regarding these players. So I see your screen, Humzah, and let's get into it. So with the first pick, I think you'll go first. So First overall, Humzah, where do you think the Las Vegas Raiders are going first overall?
I think, with the departure of Max Crosby, I think they have to go with the edge rusher here. I'm joking, obviously. It's unanimously the way they're building their team right now. With the wide receivers, with some of the offensive lines, with Tyler Linderbaum, the defense, they've addressed almost every need. I think they're trying to set up to put any quarterback in the system. I think getting a franchise guy like Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders, I think is the most obvious number one pick. I can almost put my entire future life savings of Fernando Mendoza will be the number one overall pick in this draft.
Oh, I don't know if I would do that, Humzah.
I could pretty much do that. But yeah, I have Fernando Mendoza number one overall to Las Vegas Raiders. I think we've said a lot about him. I think everyone knows how good he is.
Yeah, I know. And second overall, Oh, sorry. Second overall, Humzah. This player has really risen in the mock drafts recently. He had a phenomenal combine, running a 4.5 as an edge rusher. 10-yard split was 1.62 seconds, and his vertical jump was 35. This guy, in our earlier mock drafts, we had him at like the 8, 7, 8 range, maybe even 9. But now I think the New York Jets are going to draft David Bailey, edge rusher from Texas Tech. Talking about a dynamic edge rusher, we went into depth with him in our previous mock draft. I think one of the best natural edge rushers at this position. He's able to bend, get around tackles. I think this is a great pick for the New York Jets here at second overall.
That's indeed a great pick. David Bailey is a monster. I think, with the Jets losing Jermaine Johnson earlier, they did a straight up trade Jermaine Johnson for Devondre Sweat. I think that heavily addresses the need for an edge rusher, and I think David Bailey would just fit him perfectly. Arizona Cardinals are on the board, pick number 3. They're going to go with he's my best defensive player in this draft. Arvell Reese, you're getting a 2-in-1 player, someone that could play off-ball linebacker, someone that can also play at edge. Someone that's super aggressive. He ran a 4.47 in the combine. Just raw, natural talent from a guy like Arvell Reese, and someone that would be an instant impact for this, Arizona Cardinals defense, and it will just continue to help this team.
I will fly through this, Humzah. Right now at 4th overall, I have the Tennessee Titans and Robert Saleh drafting Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. He had a phenomenal NFL combine, running a 4.3 at the 40-yard dash, a 1.55 10-yard split. I think a lot of these guys that we're going to mention here in the top 8 really had an interesting and an entertaining combine. And a very good one in the sense that their draft stock has risen. And we had Jeremiah Love mocked to the Kansas City Chiefs a lot earlier, but obviously they made a big-time move to get Kenneth Walker in free agency, so we know that their need is not running back. But Jeremiah Love out there helping out a guy like Cam Ward and Humzah. Your volume, Humzah.
Don't know what's happening.
That's crazy from you.
I don't know what's happening.
Why don't you just turn that down? So Jeremiah Love, 4th overall, we have in the Tennessee Titans, so that's my pick. Humzah, back at you with number 5. The New York Jets are on the clock, and who are they selecting?
You mean the Giants? New York Giants are on the board. They can go with multiple directions here. I think, with the loss of Wan'Dale Robinson, me being a little more lenient towards, getting a wide receiver. They can also take Sonny Styles. I think that's something they need. They also need a linebacker. They can also go with someone like Caleb Downs. All 3 Ohio State guys. Just in this mock, I'm gonna, because of the departure of Wan'Dale Robinson and the need of a wide receiver alongside Malik Neighbors, I am gonna go with Cardinal Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. This is a guy who ran a 4.53 at the combine as 40. Could have ran faster. I think he actually did run faster, but they kind of stopped the clock early. But again, Cardinal Tate, in my opinion, he's a wide receiver 1 in this draft. Someone that can play almost anywhere. Great jump ball guy, good after the catch. Just honestly, everything you need in a wide receiver. And yeah, Cardinal Tate's my pick here to the Giants.
Number 6 overall, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting offensive tackle Francis Mayunoya. We've seen his tape before, Humzah. We've been into depth about his ability. Just a true ultimate tackle that's a big-time body, can kind of match up against your team's best edge rusher and put him in his place. And this is a great pick, I think, for a guy like Shedeur Sanders or whoever the starting quarterback is going to be in September. Build around your offensive tackles. We've seen that success happen with guys like Penei Sewell when the Cowboys drafted Tyrone Smith. So this is a cornerstone leader of your team on the offensive side of the ball, especially and furthermore being on the offensive line. I think this is a great pick for Cleveland, and they can really solidify their offensive tackle needs. Back to you, Humzah, for 7th overall, and the Washington Commanders are on the clock.
Washington, I think their biggest need is probably a running back, but Jeremiah Love got picked at number 4. They did sign Rachaad White, so I don't think running back's in the card right now, especially at 7. I'm shifting more towards the defensive side, and I'm looking at linebacker Sonny Styles, who had one of the greatest combine performances we have ever seen. He was being compared to Calvin Johnson, and this guy's a linebacker. He ran a 4.46 40-yard dash. He had the best broad jump out of all running backs. He had the best vertical standing vert out of all the running backs. And again, a guy as a player everything you want as a linebacker. He could be the play caller for that defense, someone that can run all over the field, great sideline to sideline work, someone with great intensity, and I think Sonny Styles to the Commanders would be a scary look for every other team in the NFC East.
Yeah, that would I would hate that if Sonny Styles went to Washington at number 7 overall. We hope that maybe he can slip a little bit, but we have to be a little bit realistic here in this mock draft, and that's a great pick for Washington. I think a future captain and an all-star for the Commanders there. Number 8 overall, Humzah, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock, and there's multiple different ways they can go here. They can go wide receiver, they can go D-line, they can go edge. In my opinion, I'm a big believer in establishing your defensive side of the ball, especially at the edge position. And I have them drafting Ruben Bain Jr. out of Miami. Talking about a guy, Humzah, who we've said it before, he's a difference maker in the run game on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, his short arms could be an issue for many teams, but he has still shown at a high level of college football that he can still disrupt the run at a very high level, and then also he can get home. I think that is a good cornerstone guy to build around there in New Orleans, and a great pick for them at 8 overall for the Saints. So that's my pick, Humzah. We'll fly back to you at 9 overall. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock.
Yeah, so the Chiefs are now on the clock. I'm going to go with, I think, if you look at the positional needs, what they need, they lose Trent McDuffie, they lost Jalen Watson, they lost Brian Cook in their safety position. So I'm right now battling between Mansour Delane and Caleb Downs. I think just because of how impactful Trent McDuffie was and Jalen Watson, I think there's a huge hole at corner. So I'm going to go with Mansour Delane to the Chiefs here at pick number 9. Mansour Delane is, in my opinion, he's by far the best corner in this draft, someone I would love for him to slip to pick 12. But yeah, I think Mansour Delane is easily going to fill that big hole in that Chiefs secondary, someone that could lock up your wide receiver 1. And yeah, Mansour Delane to the Chiefs would just be an instant upgrade to what they have right now.
And that brings me to the 10th overall pick. Comes out the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and I think this guy's going to stay home. He went to the University of Ohio State. He's a Buckeye, one of the best defensive prospects in this NFL draft. And I have the Cincinnati Bengals drafting safety Caleb Downs. We've said it before. You watch his highlight tape, just a human highlight reel. Truly one of the best players I think his entire draft. Now it'll be interesting to see where he goes, considering his ACL injury that kind of came about during the NFL combine. I wonder if that's going to make teams a little bit scared. But at the end of the day, this guy I think is the best player on the board at that time. And Caleb Downs will be going number 10 to the Cincinnati Bengals. So Humzah, I'll kick it to you now. You will do the 11th and the 12th overall picks. So you will pick the first one of the Dallas Cowboys, and then I will get the 20th overall pick later. So we'll start off with Miami, though, at number 11. Who, by the way, made a very interesting trade.
Miami recently just traded away Jalen Waddle for a first-round pick to the Denver Broncos. I think that leaves a huge hole for them at wide receiver. I was thinking, also they could go with athletic freaking Kenny and Sadiq, but I'm just going to go with statistically the best wide receiver in this draft. I'm going to go with Mekhi Lemon, the guy who won the 2025 Biletnikoff Award, guy who put up 11 touchdowns this year with USC, over 1,100 yards. Like this is statistically is the best wide receiver in this class. I think you want to help a guy like Malik Willis, someone that you just paid. Getting a guy like Mekhi Lemon, who's predominantly in the slot. But I think the slot receiver has kind of been the trend right now. You've seen JSN go crazy this year. He's predominantly in the slot. Puka Nacua, he's predominantly also in the slot. CeeDee Lamb, all these guys that do so well for the offense can play in the slot. I think you get a guy who can instantly plug in to be your slot wide receiver. I think Mekhi Lemon could just instantly help this poor wide receiver room with the Miami Dolphins.
And then you're sticking here at number 12. Who are our Dallas Cowboys picking with their first selection in the first round?
If this is the board here, honestly, I'm not the happiest. I think all the best defensive players that we want are gone.
I'm very happy if this is our board.
Mansour Delane, Ruben Bain, Sonny Styles, those are the guys we want. But, there still are some people available. I think maybe later on we can potentially look at people like Spencer Fano or Monroe Phelan to, help that right tackle position. But I think I'm going to go with the best player available. And I think the best player available is Dillon Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. This is a guy who also had an unbelievable combine. He ran a 4.36, a 40-yard dash. He had he had an unbelievable season. He had 44 solo tackles, 2 interceptions, and 5 pass deflections. I think, Dillon Thieneman is a guy you can instantly plug in, and also we address the free safety need and Jalen Thompson. Then you have Dillon Thieneman on the other side. This instantly boosts his Cowboys secondary, and this is something that'd be really exciting for his Dallas defense.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick at number 12. Now, if I'm the GM of the Dallas Cowboys, and this is the board that you have with Dillon Thieneman, Francis Mano, Monroe Freeland, Kenyon Sneak, not a lot of true defensive players. I would like Dallas to personally trade out of this spot, maybe go back to the 15th or 16th overall pick and pick up a third rounder. I think that would be the best beneficial play for Dallas in terms of capitalizing on your assets there. But hey, in this mock draft, we're not going to be trading, so I have Humzah had Dallas picking Dillon Thieneman, which I think is a great pick. Now, the Los Angeles Rams are on the clock. Their biggest need is wide receiver and tackle and linebackers. You can see here on the board. There's also some really good defensive players, but you know what? I'm going to stick on the offensive side of the ball. I have them picking an individual who's 6'7" and has really risen in a lot of mock drafts, especially Mel Kiper's. Humzah has his name highlighted right now. Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. This is an ultimate tackle. Humzah, who's lanky, he's long, 6'7", as I mentioned. Just a guy that can solidify their offensive line position, and guy who can be a cornerstone for that O-line. And also this year immediately help out a guy like Matthew Stafford, who looks like he may be kind of leaning towards the later end of his career. Maybe this might be his last year, so why not get one of the best tackles in the draft and truly try to go all in this year for the Rams. So that's my pick at 13 overall. Humzah, you're on the board with Baltimore at 14 overall.
Baltimore has been a super weird offseason. They were thinking that they had Max Crosby the entire time, but they also lost so many players. They lost, Isaiah Likely. They lost Tyler Linderbaum. They lost a couple of guys on the defensive side as well. I think here, you need to do what's best for your offensive line, and I think they need to address, guard. So I'm going to go Olivier Leon out of Penn State. Sorry if I butchered his name. I still don't know how to pronounce his name, but this guy he's a dog. Someone that would just instantly, be an impact starter on day one. Someone that, I think guard is very valuable now, especially in these drafts, and we've seen it from previous picks and other years. I think you need a guy that can just plug in and play. Someone that can just really help the offensive line, and you want to protect Lamar. You want to give Derrick Henry good blocks. I think Olivier Leon, again, I probably butchered his name, should be the pick here for Baltimore.
And Humzah at 15 overall, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 15 overall, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think I'm going to go offense. They're going to help a guy like Baker Mayfield. I know Cade Otton went back there, and it's a reunion tour for him. That's amazing. But you're looking at, I think, one of the best tight end prospects you've seen in a long time. I think he's better than Kyle Pitts was coming out of college, and that might be a hot take. But looking at this guy's tape, I think Kenyon Sadiq is the ultimate pick here at number, I can't hold my glasses, 15 overall. Apologize. Man, this guy's unbelievable. His ability to block and his ability to get downfield. He looks like a wide receiver. He's built like a linebacker. He runs like a wide receiver, and he blocks like an offensive lineman. One of the best prospects I've seen in a very long time, and I think this is going to be a great pick for Tampa Bay, and also a phenomenal pick in fantasy football drafts come September. I think this is a great opportunity for the Buccaneers to really help out their offense, especially with Mike Evans now being a San Francisco 49er.
Yeah, that's a great pick. With the Jets now on the board, they traded away Justin Fields. They brought in Geno Smith. I'm thinking, they could go quarterback. They could go Ty Simpson. But maybe 16 is a little bit rich for a guy like Ty Simpson, unless if they want him that bad. I'm going to go, even though he's not the best player available on the board here, but in my opinion, out of everyone, he is the best player available and a player that can address a need pretty badly for this New York Jets offense. I'm going to go wide receiver Jordan Tyson. Early on, we had him going in the top 5, top 6 in our previous mock drafts, but he was dealing with injury. He didn't really fully participate in the combine. He does have his pro day coming up, so we'll see what happens. But Jordan Tyson, I think a year before, he's probably one of the best receivers in college football. I think, with the production of Mekhi Lemon and Cardinals did what they did this year, kind of dropped down Jordan Tyson. But, man, I think you get another X like Jordan Tyson alongside Garrett Wilson. It's going to help whoever's at quarterback.
It's a great pick. Humzah at 17 overall. I'm going to have the Detroit Lions sticking on the offensive side of the ball, and I think they're going to go offensive tackle here. Now, it's interesting. Now, Spencer Fano is there from Utah, and we have Caden Proctor at Alabama. Now, I know Caden Proctor is definitely more of a left tackle, and Spencer Fano is more of a right tackle. But Penei Sewell is also a right tackle. So, I think this is going to be an interesting pick here for Detroit. I have them going Spencer Fano, tackle out of Utah. Now, it's interesting. We'll see what happens. I know the Dallas Cowboys, when they drafted Tyler Guyton, he was predominantly a right tackle coming out of college, and then they kind of transitioned him to left tackle. So I can see something like that happening. But can you just imagine Spencer Fano and Penei Sewell, the two tackles that are the offensive linemen for the Detroit Lions? It's a great pick, I think, for them. Something that they can build around for a very, very long time. And, hey, if he can transition to being a left tackle, that's even better. So Spencer Fano, I have him going to the Detroit Lions at 17 overall. Humzah, you are on the board now with Skull Nation, who has a new quarterback in Kyler Murray. That's an interesting trade there, or I guess signing. But who do you have them picking here?
I have a couple players in mind. I'm looking at Jamon McCoy. He's on here, the best player available. But again, guy who's dealing with injuries. He still has a pro day to do. We'll see what happens there. Looking at another reliable corner, Navion Terrell. Someone that they can definitely pick. I'm also looking at another guy like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I think they need a safety. Harrison Smith is old. I don't think he's even on the team anymore. But I'm just gonna go with my gut, and I'm gonna go with what they possibly think is the best player available, and someone that they can just turn around instantly. I'm gonna go with Jermon McCoy. Last season in college football, when he was healthy, he was the best corner in all of college football. I think, I don't think this one injury is really going to send him back that far. Obviously, missing a whole year of football is not going to help, but he will be healthy for training camp. He will be healthy for spring camp. I think having that will just be good, and I think, when Jamon McCoy gets going, he's going to be a really good corner in the NFL.
No, I like that pick on this. So I have the next two picks, I believe, here now, because I would like to have the Dallas second pick in the first round. But before that, we have the 19th overall pick, which is going to the Carolina Panthers. And one of their biggest needs, I think, is the defensive line. They already have Derek Brown, but I think they need someone to help him on that defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to go with, there's actually, I'm kind of conflicted now. There's Caleb Banks and Peter Woods, who I think are both two phenomenal players. We didn't talk about this before, but you know what? I'm going to go between those two guys. Give me Peter Woods, Humzah, from Clemson. I think it's a great value pick there. He's built like an absolute monster. I don't know if you've seen some of his workouts. I think he's going to be great. I've been listening to many, interviews and mock draft simulators from other people, and Peter Woods had a phenomenal year a couple years ago, but the system had kind of changed around there in Clemson where he wasn't able to establish his true identity on that defensive side of the ball. But I think now if he can go back, get drafted by Carolina, learn from a guy like Derek Brown, who's a stud defensive lineman, I think one of the more underrated defensive lineman players, that would be a great pick for them. At 20 overall, Humzah, our Dallas Cowboys are on the clock, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. There's many good players, and Humzah obviously picked Dillon Thieneman at 12 overall. And I know this guy got flamed for some of his pro workout days a couple of days, like literally yesterday. They're thinking he's too big or he's looking slow, but I don't look too much into that. I look at his college tape. I look at what he did at the University of Georgia, being that green dot guy. And obviously Dallas did not address linebacker in the free agency. And I think this guy, along with a guy like DeMarvion Overshown, Marius Luafau, it's a very scary linebacking core for a very long time. And I have the Dallas Cowboys at 20 overall, picking C.J. Allen from Georgia. Like I mentioned before, Dallas is one of their biggest needs as linebacker. And people are going to look too much into that little pro college tape, little highlight pack video, but I'm not looking too much into that. I think he's going to be a great player for a very long time. A guy that can wear the green dot, which means he's going to be calling the plays for the Dallas Cowboys for a very long time. And I think if Dallas addressed linebacker in free agency, they wouldn't necessarily have to address this in the first round. There's guys like Jacob Rodriguez and other studs in the second and third round who will be available. But right now, I think best player available, C.J. Allen. So that's my pick. Humzah, we'll kick it to you now. 21 overall for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Steelers, they finally addressed a wide receiver too when they got Michael Pittman. They did a really good job addressing the secondary with Jamel Dean, also Jaquan Brisker. I'm looking at the offensive side. I'm looking at either the offensive line or I'm looking at quarterback. I think, Mike McCarthy does like Will Howard, and I don't know what the situation with Aaron Rodgers is. But I'm just going to go with, I think, a guy who has shown up a lot in college football. He did play awesome. He was dealing with a minor injury, so his production kind of fell off a bit. But I think you have him healthy. You have a guy who can almost do anything as a quarterback, super solid. I'm going to go with Ty Simpson here, quarterback out of Alabama. I really do like Ty Simpson's game. I think he's someone that can play pretty much anywhere. I think if getting him into a system like Pittsburgh and under Mike McCarthy, we know how good Mike McCarthy does with a good quarterback. What he did with Dak Prescott for the years he was with Dallas. Obviously, what he did with Aaron Rodgers back in the day with Green Bay. I think, you learn, even if they bring back Rodgers, you get Ty Simpson who can sit under Rodgers for about maybe a season and a half or even a whole year. And then Ty Simpson will be the future quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think he will fit very well.
I like that pick. Comes a lot. At 22 overall. But quickly touching back on Ty Simpson. As you mentioned, he had, I think, a pretty entertaining college football playoff. And this is a quarterback now who I think can really shine at a high level in a big market like Pittsburgh. And one thing you didn't mention is Mike McCarthy is great at developing quarterbacks, right? He did that with Aaron Rodgers. He helped Dak Prescott a lot. I think he can be a great mentor for a guy like Ty Simpson. And I think it's a great pick for Pittsburgh at 21 overall. At 22 overall, Humzah, the Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock, and I'm kind of torn. I'm torn between Hakeem Ezador, edge rusher out of Miami, and I'm torn between Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida. I think these are two defensive players who can instantly help their team. Defensive interior is a need for this team, I think. But you know what? I think they're going to go and draft the Canadian boy, Ottawa boy, Hakeem Ezador, 22 overall. We saw what he did in the college football playoff. We saw what he can do alongside a guy like Ruben Bain. Now, can you just imagine Hakeem Ezador and a guy like Khalil Mack? I think that's a pretty scary defensive line for the Los Angeles Chargers for maybe not for a long time in terms of Khalil Mack, but Kiki can have a great success there in Los Angeles. So that's my pick, Humzah. And we'll fly back to you now. The Eagles, who lost a lot of players in free agency, who are they targeting here at 23?
If they didn't pick up, they did make a great pickup of getting Tariq Woolen, so they're good at corners. We don't know the situation with A.J. Brown. Well, I think as of right now, A.J. Brown, he's on the team, so I'm maybe not taking a wide receiver now. I'm looking at tackle, and I'm looking at safety. I think the Philadelphia Eagles does best. They do best when they have two strong safeties, not like actual strong safeties, but two good safeties is what I mean. They already have Andrew Makuba, who played great last year, rookie out of Texas. They lost Reed Blankenship, so I'm going to put in a plug-and-play guy, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren out of Toledo also has ties with Quinion Mitchell. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is 6'4". He also had a great combine. Didn't do a 40, but the way he was moving for a guy his size, and he's super lanky and isn't afraid to hit. If you watch his tape, this guy hits, man, and he also plays really good on the ball as well. I think that's just an instant impact guy right there for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I like that pick a lot, Humzah. At 24 overall, we're just going to fly through these last couple picks here. 24 overall, Cleveland Browns. I think they're going to go with the sure-hand wide receiver, Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. We saw the impact he made with a guy like Fernando Mendoza in the college football playoff, in particular the national championship game. Just a dynamic receiver, a big play guy, an underrated guy who we didn't have actually in our first couple mock drafts, but his stock has really risen in the last couple of weeks, and I think he's going to be a great player for Cleveland for a very long time, Humzah. So 25 overall, where are the Chicago Bears headed?
They're definitely going to want to address the edge, and you have three good options, and Kildrick Folk, Cassius Howell, and T.J. Parker. I'm just going to go who I think is the best player out of the three, and I think someone that produces. I'm looking at the production side. I'm looking at someone who has made an impact. I'm going to go with Cassius Howell, defensive end out of Texas A&M. He had a great combine. He ran a 4.59 40-yard dash. I know he has small arms, but the guy with a bend like he has and the physicality that he plays with, I don't think that really matters. And I think Cassius Howell will be great.
26 overall, the Buffalo Bills, who had a pretty entertaining free agency, going out there and getting a guy like DJ Moore. I think he's going to help out Josh Allen in many ways. Is he a true wide receiver one? That's up for debate, but I think it's a good pick overall, pickup for them. 6 overall. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to go on the defensive side of the ball, and they're going to pick Avion Terrell. He's kind of a corner, but also is very predominantly a nickel player. I think he's going to help that defense in many ways, so I have them picking him. Just an impact day one starter for the Buffalo Bills defense, who I think for a long time have been holding down this team in many ways. So that's my pick there. Buffalo picking Avion Terrell. You're muted, my friend.
Well, the San Francisco 49ers on the board. They did lose Trent Williams, so I'm going to get someone that can fill that hole. I'm going to go with Caden Proctor. They brought in Mike Evans in free agency, so there's a lot of high hopes for the high power offense that they have with Brock Purdy, McCaffrey, Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle. I think the biggest need is they need to protect the quarterback. So I'm going to go Caden Proctor out of Alabama.
I like that pick up a lot. For me here, the Houston Texans are on the clock. There's many good players that they can kind of go with here. I think edge rusher is a place where they don't really need too much help there. Do you mind going to the defensive line position here? Just so we have it here. And I think they're going to go Caleb Banks. I think he can play interior defensive line for this team. He can kind of play the four tech as well. Look at that defensive line now with Daniil Hunter and I apologize, I forget that guy's name. The guy from Will McDonald, right? From Alabama.
Will Anderson.
Will Anderson, sorry. I don't know why I said Will McDonald. So, yeah, Caleb Banks is my pick there, 28 overall. Houston Texans, I think that defense is now even more scary than they were last year.
Yeah. Now with the Chiefs on the board, I'm definitely looking at edge rusher. They already addressed corner with Mansour Delane. It's either between Kildrick Falk and TJ Parker. It depends on what you like. If you like the upside with Kildrick Falk, with the you can hopefully get him going, but isn't really productive. You can get a guy who has been productive in years prior, but didn't have the greatest system. I'm gonna go with TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson. I think he is a little bit better than Kildrick Falk. I think just the upside with Kildrick Falk is so high, just like with the way he's built, the size, the speed. The only thing that's lacking is really the production side, but I with the production side with TJ Parker.
And I'm going to go with Kildrick Falk here, 30 overall for Miami. I think, them losing Bradley Chubb and them losing Jordan Phillips to, obviously, Philadelphia and then Carolina, I do think edge rusher is a position that they need to address here in the draft. And there's been a lot of hate on Kildrick Falk. I'm not the biggest fan of him just because of his pass rush ability. But hey, you know what? A lot of people have been wrong many times before, and I think this guy can, if he's put in the right system, he's put in the right opportunity, he can thrive and shock a lot of people. So Kildrick Falk, I have 30 overall to Miami, and Humzah, the 31st overall pick. Who are the New England Patriots drafting here?
I could go in many directions. I do like what we have at offensive tackle here. Will Campbell didn't have the greatest. He had a good regular season, but production kind of fell off in the playoffs when needed most. I like Blake Miller here. Denzel Boston, I'm not the highest on him. He just reminds me of, I don't want to say he's like Keon Coleman, because I do like Keon Coleman, but just another big guy. I don't think he can't really create much separation, but who am I to say? I'm just going to go with who I think is the best wide receiver available. I'm going to go with Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. This is a guy who could pretty much play anywhere. He could play, predominantly just play in the slot. But with the loss of Stephon Diggs, I think there's a whole wide receiver to fill, and they haven't really addressed it so far in free agency. So Casey Concepcion is going to be my pick here, and I think he'd just be another really reliable target for a guy like Drake May.
And Humzah, to wrap up this mock draft, I would call it a live mock draft, right? Because essentially you're picking these kind of as we go. The Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl champions are on the board. You know what? I think It's interesting, right? I know we spoke previously. We touched on it a little bit. I think running back is an opportunity for these guys. With Kenneth Walker, obviously, going away in free agency to Kansas City, but I still do think there's some depth at that position that they can address in the second, even in the third round at running back. So in my opinion, I think one of the best players on the board, and I know Dallas had mock drafted him. Sure, there was mocks for this guy to go to Dallas a few different times. I'm going to go with DB Colton Hood out of Tennessee. You look at some of the players that they lost on the defensive side of the ball, and Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, sorry. There's some guys out there who, they're lacking a little bit of help on the secondary. And I think Colton Hood is a good starting point for them on the defensive side of the ball. And as we know, defense wins championships. So that's my opinion pick there for Seattle. And that is, Humzah, that wraps our mock draft live. If you can close the draft here, then we can go back to full screen. That was always entertaining. I think. What are your thoughts on our mock draft overall? And I like that. That was fun. I like the live aspect of that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely fun. Making decisions on the spot is, I don't want to say a little more like stressful, but it's definitely different. It's more fun instead of pre-doing it before talking about it. But it's good I think it's fun that way, just to see where your headspace is at the time and what other teams needs at the pick. So I think we did a pretty good job. I think this is a somewhat accurate mock draft. Again, we're a month away, and I feel like time's going by super quick. And next thing we know, we're gonna be the draft is in Pittsburgh, right, this year.
Yeah.
Next thing we know, it's gonna be number one over. Next thing that we know that's gonna happen is we're gonna be watching the draft live, and yeah, it's crazy how fast time is going, and I'm super excited for the draft, honestly.
So I got a question for you, Humzah. This was I saw this online a couple of days ago. I think it's an interesting question here. And before and after this, we'll touch a little bit on world sports, because I know the Ottawa Senators are in a thick of a playoff race right now, and it's super exciting to watch. But my question for you is, if you were to draft strictly based off university, and we're not going to go Ohio State because that's unfair, but if you're going to go draft just based off a university in the first couple rounds, which university are you drafting?
In this draft or just
in this draft specifically?
That's a good question. I think probably Miami.
Okay, and why is that?
I think the two edges with Ruben Bain and Hakeem Essador. I think Francis Mauigoa at tackle. I think Carson Beck could be a guy that can also play. Obviously we don't have him mocked in the first round. I don't think he's going to go in the first round. I think he's a guy that can play.
And don't forget later that Anthony Hill, right?
Yeah, that's Texas.
Oh, sorry, not the, who's that number 0, that nickel player for Miami?
Oh yeah, Keontae Scott, another guy I really like a lot. A nickel. If Dallas does have a second round pick, I would love to see Dallas taking a chance on a guy like Keontae Scott. I think defensively, I think definitely Miami. I think offense, they have C.J. Daniels, they have the wide receiver, they have Carson Beck. None of their running backs are clear this year, but they also have Markel Bell, the offensive tackle, as well. You can get in the later rounds, so I think Miami.
Yeah, I like Miami a lot. That's probably my pick as well. A pick for me, I think, is Clemson. I think they have a lot of really good players. You got sorry, I have my notes right here. TJ Parker on edge, and they have a couple. Avion Terrell, I think, is a really underrated prospect. TJ Parker, Peter Woods. I think Clemson's a great university that can be the number one, I think, after this draft. But that's my pick, Humzah. So overall, Humzah, I think a phenomenal episode. That was a very entertaining podcast in many different ways. Mock Draft 3.0 will be out soon. We appreciate everyone's support, and in the coming weeks, we'll have more episodes for you guys and some more world sports. But today was strictly mock draft episode, and Humzah, I'll let you close it out for us.
Again, we appreciate all the support. Hopefully, you guys do like this version of our mock drafts. Again, we will be doing more mocks in the up and coming weeks closer to the NFL draft. Again, we appreciate all the support, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.